Hello and welcome. Hopefully you weren't on my other recording that just got dropped. I don't know why. I just got kicked out. I suddenly looked and I wasn't connected at all. But thank you so much for taking the time. And if you were on that first recording that I got kicked out of, thank you for coming back to join me. Let me know you're here. If you're watching the replay, let me know. Give me a hashtag replay. I'm also curious too to see where people are watching from. So let me know where you're located. We get viewers all around the world between our YouTube channel, Facebook. We're everywhere right now. And so let me know where you're watching from. Today, we are going to be talking about a very important topic that I see coming in our society and something that we do deal with in many aspects of our life, which is a false sense of security. And the biggest bottleneck for false sense of security is that we start to become very complacent. So that is really our focus today. But in case this is your first time joining me, let me introduce myself before we really get into that, the pitfalls of that complacency and the problems that happen because of a false sense of security and just getting too comfortable. So my name is Evelyn Knight. I am the CEO and founder of Childcare Business Professionals. I am the host of the Childcare Business Coach podcast, and I'm a childcare center owner myself. That is one of the things that really makes me stand out in the industry from other business coaches for childcare is that I am an owner. I'm experiencing what you experience. I have a lot of experience in this field. My background is also in psychology. So I take what I know about business and I combine it with how people's brains work and come up with practical solutions to help us with the daily struggles of managing a childcare center, like time management, like the fact that so many owners and directors work way more hours than they need to. They really don't, but it comes down to a couple different problems. Either you're not organized, you don't have, or you're not following procedures, or you just can't let go of control. But most of the time, that part, once you get the business basics down, comes to psychology. So that's where it's really important to have both when you're running a center, understanding our own mental pitfalls and also understanding what we need to put into place just to have successful businesses. So that actually is really aligned with today's topic, which is really talking about having a false sense of security, which leads to complacency. Complacency is detrimental, and becoming too comfortable in your job is detrimental. One of the things I see very often is your workplace becomes like your second home, right? As a childcare center management or owner, that becomes your second home. You're so used to being there. And a lot of times you're there more than you are at your own home. And when that happens, what ends up occurring is that you become very comfortable in your space and you become relaxed, and that leads to complacency. But complacency is very often the kiss of death for a childcare center, I have to say. Probably one of the number one reasons I see people fail is their complacency. They're becoming too comfortable leads them to complacency, and that complacency basically leads them to not following procedures, not keeping up with things, and everything spirals out of control. This happens not only with our staff, like how we're managing our staff, but how we're managing ourselves and how we're managing our money. And I think right now, in our day and age that we're living in right now, money is a big thing that we are being complacent with. And so we think we have so much of it right now because of all the grants that we're seeing, that we're becoming somewhat, it's giving us a major false sense of security, major false sense of security. But another place that I see this often is with your staff and with yourself. You give yourself a false sense of security when it comes to staff, because a lot of times when you work with people, you become too close. And when that happens, you just don't treat them the way they should be treated. And it's almost like spouses, right? Where you live with your spouse, you're with them day in and day out. And a lot of times, the people we treat the worst are our spouses and our children because we become complacent and we have this false sense of security. Ask anybody who's been divorced, and normally one person in that couple is shocked, right? Or ask anybody who's going through a divorce, and when their significant other starts to move on with someone else, they're shocked. That shock comes into place. And that's really because the person involved has a false sense of security, right? Same thing with you guys as staff. You get this false sense of security, and then you're shocked when somebody leaves you, or you're shocked when they're upset. But in reality, the problems have always been there. You've just chosen to ignore them because you've become complacent, because you're too comfortable in your own skin, basically, in your centers, right? Wherever it is in life, whether it's your own home, whether it's your center, we become too comfortable. And we, because of this false sense of security, we go through our day-to-day life without thinking and really looking into things and analyzing. And basically that gets us to the point where we feel safe. And unfortunately, I want to word this carefully because I also know that there's people like myself who really struggle psychologically with going way on the opposite end, where you have such big insecurities that you always feel like everything's fragile and about to break, right? So this is kind of the opposite of that, where this false sense of security, where you think like, oh, this person's going to be fine. They're never going to leave me. This is just who it is. But you do things that you're really not treating them well because of this, right? And it's not so much that you're not even just treating them well. You might be nice to them, cordial to them on the daily basis, but you're cutting corners and you're not following procedures, right? We so often forget that our childcare centers are businesses. They need to be treated as a business every single day. I am a stickler for procedures. I know my staff teases me. My director actually sent me a screenshot of a T-shirt that she said I needed. That I can't remember. It said something like, I can create a procedure for that, or I can create a SOP for that. Where I'm big in my center on, there's a procedure for everything, right? And it's documented. They have to be documented. You guys can have procedures, but if it's not in writing somewhere, it is useless. They cannot be in your head, right? And there's a process to follow for every little thing. Brandy and I have been working together for many, many years as owner director. So there's a lot of things that we discover were in our heads that I'll say, I mean, just last week, there was an issue that came up. And because it's just been her and I, for our NACE accreditation, we have to prove it. And I was like, well, there's got to be a procedure for that. I have a procedure for everything. I have a procedure for a documented procedure for how you clean tables. I have a procedure for diaper changes. I have a procedure for how you clean, the floors. We have procedures for, what's some other, biting. We have procedures for how you collect payments, how you deposit payments. I mean, everything you can think of. Our behavior guide is a very long, extensive procedure that starts from little behaviors to large behaviors and follows the same process every single time. So it was something else that Brandy and I always used to just deal with ourselves. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we do the same thing. My management team all knows what we do, but it isn't documented. So I had to create another procedure last week. And it's never ending. It's never ending. You guys will always find something new. But the reason everything does work like a well-oiled machine, and the reason I have been able to step out of my center, is because there's documented processes for everything. And even though sometimes it feels like overkill that I have these documented processes, the reason I have them is to make sure we don't become complacent. is to make sure that we remember not to have a false sense of security. There's a reason for them, right? And as soon as they start to lax, we see problems. We start seeing unhappy staff, different things like that, right? And so that's why we want to guard ourselves from a false sense of security. I'm seeing a major false sense of security in our industry as a whole right now, especially when it comes to your financials. We have a lot of money being thrown at us between all these grants that we're getting. And if you're in one of the states that's very grant heavy, you're doing very well financially right now. So I'm seeing a lot of irresponsible spending. And I'm seeing just the money just going like crazy. And we're not investing in things that are going to enrich the center. We're not looking at this as, okay, how can I use this money to help my center make more money? Because eventually, one of two things is going to happen. Either this grant money is going to go away, or we're going to be absorbed into the system, into like the K through 12 system, the Head Start type of system. One of those, something is going to happen. The government is not going to continue giving us money without strings attached, right? As it should be. As a taxpayer, I don't want to know that just any childcare center is getting money and they're not being held to standards, right? I want there to be standards that we're held to. I don't want my tax money wasted. So I am not disagreeing per se with there being standards. I do know I don't want to become part of the K through 12 system, since in the United States it isn't the best. And ECE is such higher quality in the United States. But we need to realize that things are going to change. And right now we have a very false sense of security when it comes to financials because of what we're seeing. Our industry is not sustainable right now, the way things stand. And that is where I see this very false sense of security. I just recorded a podcast episode a couple weeks ago that talks about what I'm seeing, and this is nationwide. I work with owners all over this nation. I get P&Ls sent to me. I get balance sheets sent to me. I get owners who have no P&Ls and balance sheets because they don't know how to keep up their books. And that is one of the big things I'm seeing right now is a lot of center owners think that their centers are doing better than they are because they have these grants and they have this false sense of security, right? The first thing I do if I look over your numbers is take the grants out to see what is the health of your business. So the first thing I do is take the grant money out. I separate it and I look and I calculate, is this a healthy business based on what your tuition income is receiving, right? And it has become so painfully obvious to me after getting P&L after P&L after P&L that our industry is trapped in this very false sense of security. And it's really detrimental in so many ways. It will lead to massive bankruptcy if we are not careful as an industry. So I really challenge you to look at your financials and to look at your business. Where do you have a false sense of security? Where are you being complacent? Complacency is one of the biggest killers of everything. Everything we do comes down to relationships, right? Everything is relationships. Everything is how we communicate. Our relationships with our staff, with our families, with ourselves, with our spouses, with our children, that is the equivalent of our lives, right? The quality of life you're living right now, today, is all about relationship. What is your relationship with money? What is your relationship with your business knowledge? Where are you lacking? When you find yourself really struggling with things, you really have to question, what breakdown in relationship are you having? Are you having staff members leave your center and you can't keep them? Well, what is that relationship? Right? Where are you being complacent? And for some of you, when it comes to that, you don't have a false sense of security, right? You know your staff is very fragile. But what about the yes, Tiffany says complacency with our time, right? That's probably the biggest one I see, especially for leaders, is, oh my gosh, you're so complacent with your time. But that is one of the biggest things we help with in childcare business professionals. The first thing I do for every one of my members is have them go through my time management, because that complacency with time is huge. And I'll tell you, as somebody who is a young widow, losing my husband taught me the value of time. I used to be awful about it. I didn't value time at all. And I basically in 2012, I worked so much that I now have a neurological disease because of it. And I will live with it for the rest of my life because I wasn't managing my time. I wasn't taking care of myself. I was just so complacent. So time is a huge one where we just think we're going to have more. Time is the most important commodity in the world. There is nothing more important than time. Money comes and goes. We savor money like it's this just this thing that it's so hard to grasp and it's so hard to get a hold of. And when you do have it, it's just like, oh my gosh, now I got to go buy this and this, right? But when time is gone, it's gone forever. You never get time back. And we only have so much of it. Bill Gates, Elon Musk, the richest man in the world right now, he might have so much money that he could buy whatever he wants and never even have to look at a bank account, right? But he has the same amount of time as every single one of us. He cannot buy time. So you can always make more money. You may lose things, you'll get it back. But time you never get back. So losing the complacency with time is huge. Having that false sense of security and always thinking there's enough time is a big, big deal. That really comes down to a lot of the things I'm doing in my own businesses and I'm putting into place. All of this I just see, and it really scares me right now, this huge trend of a false sense of security in our industry. If you really keep your finger on the business world, everybody is saying, buckle down, hard times are coming. It's coming. And I know it's coming. I'm preparing myself I'm going through and making sure my bills are as low as I can get them, which we should absolutely always be doing anyway. But during times of prosperous growth, we tend to get really complacent because we get into these, we live in today, right? And we get this false sense of security because, oh, my bank accounts are flush, everything looks great, look at all this money I've got, I'm doing awesome, right? But we forget to plan for tomorrow because we're complacent and comfortable in our today. And we constantly ride this wave where we're on this up and then we cause ourselves to go down. And then we on our up and then we cause ourselves to go down. And I really want you to listen to my words. We cause the wave, right? I talk about all the time the story of the farmer, the good thing, bad thing, who knows? And the point of that is that life is like a spiral. It's constantly moving like this. We're going up and we're spiraling back down, and we're going up and we're spiraling back down. It is up to us, and we have the choice to make it an even keel, right? It's our mindset that brings us those ups and the downs and ups and the downs. And it's knowing that when you're at the up, it's inevitable. It is life. It is human, just how life goes. There will be a down cycle, right? So when you're on the up, are you preparing for the down cycle? When you're in the down cycle, basically when you're constantly in that preparation mode, you just end up being even, right? Whether it's mentally, when people ask me how I keep going, like after losing my husband, this is a big piece of it because I know things are going to get hard, right? I'm building 2 centers. Do I think it's going to be easy? No, I know it's going to get hard. I know it's not going to be easy. I know I'm in for struggles. I don't expect it to be all this. I do expect plummets. And so basically, because I know when I'm up, down is inevitable, I just try and keep myself on an even. Now, I still have human emotions all the time, just like you guys, and I still feel the feelings and I still get depressed and but I can talk myself out of it a lot easier and I can build myself back up. And I'm willing to take the actions I need to take in order to get out of those valleys, right? Because I realize that it's up to me. It's up to me. But complacency, I've realized, is just the killer of our happiness. We just become too secure where we're at. I challenge you, talk to a divorced friend and ask them, and I can guarantee you they had a false sense of security. I see this. I have a couple friends right now who are in the middle of a divorce, and each one of them really struggles with the fact that their ex is moving on. And that's because even after the divorce, they held on to that false sense of security. I've been there myself when I've had employees leave me that just shocked me. And you get really close to your employees. A lot of times it's like having a spouse or a best friend. And when they leave, it just shakes you to the core because I had a false sense of security. I had a false sense of security about their loyalty to me, and which caused me to be complacent with their feelings and how I took care of them, right? Because I just relied so much on their loyalty. So that false sense of security, just really be careful. And how are you treating your relationships? How are you treating your center? Are you following your policies and your procedures? Do you have them? If you don't have them, you need to get a hold of one of my employees. If you don't have the systems of operations in place that really make your center this well-oiled machine, I can guarantee you that you're working 50 hours a week. You're working 45 hours a week. Without processes and procedures, you are probably exhausted. You are probably living a life where you just are exhausted to show up this Monday morning. You don't know how you're going to keep going in your center because you don't have these systems in place. And that is something we can absolutely help you with, a childcare business professional. So let us know. You can see Moira Nemeda's CCBPs in there. She can help you out. I think some of my other girls have probably commented. I'm sorry if you guys, Lisa, Marie, CCBP, she's in there. I can't, if you guys didn't allow StreamYard, I can't see the rest of your names, but those two are employees of mine. They can help you learn how to join our program so that we can help you take your life back. Really, if your center is dictating your life, we can help with that. We can help you take your life back. But let's see. So yes, Courtney says a big piece of that is to be present. Absolutely, Courtney. Being present with these people. It's something I'm actually really working on right now. That is my biggest bottleneck since losing my husband. And the big thing I'm struggling with and that I'm working on is being present. I am very, really struggling with being present right now. And to the point that I've had to step away from a lot of things in my life because I just don't have the capacity to be present. So basically, what I'm trying to do is pretty much pull myself out of so many things and just lean in to a couple. That way I can regain my ability to be present because that is my big struggle, which you're absolutely right. Being present, knowing what's going on. If you don't know what's going on, and that again comes from having a false sense of security, right? You get this false sense of security that you have all this money in the bank and you stop looking, you stop being present, or you stop listening. And then it leads to that complacency, which leads to disasters. Let's see. We have a process and procedures for everything. Yes, we do, don't we? Yes, we have an SOP for that, right? Tiffany's one of our members, so she knows very well, but she's also one of our members that will tell you that it works. She's just expanding her location and just basically expanded thanks to a lot of the work that we help her with, and of course her own genius that she does and her passion, but just being able to take on more and still having a life with your family, so important. And if you're really allowing your center to take over your life. If you are constantly working, then you're probably being complacent with your home life and you're taking somebody for granted. You have a false sense of security with a relationship, thinking they're always going to be there for you. And honestly, they deserve more than that, don't they? It's not just about somebody leaving you or somebody um, just, they deserve the respect. They deserve to be treated well, whether it's your employees, your right hand man, whether it's your spouse, your children. They deserve the respect that is taken from them when you take them for granted or start treating them in a way that isn't right because you have a false sense of security due to the fact that you think they're so loyal to you, right? When you start treating people or taking things out on them because of other stressors in life, and they suddenly become the person that you're really taking your frustration out of, that is coming from a false sense of security. You feel secure with that person, right? So they almost become this punching bag for you. And when they become this punching bag for you, it leads to a lot of problems. So, my challenge to you today is to really think about the areas in your life that you have a false sense of security. Does your bank account look good and you're acting as if it's always going to look that good? Because if you are, it's not going to. And you're going to find yourself in financial despair once again. It produces patterns of behavior. Are your staff members not happy, but you really don't even know because you don't take the time to talk to them, right? Where do you have a false sense of security? Really dive into it this week and figure that out so that you can protect yourself from future problems and future disasters. I hope everybody has a very wonderful day. And thank you again for taking the time out to say hello. And again, let me know where you're from. I know I saw Carmen, you're in here, and Carmen's in Panama. So I know we have people all over the world watching. I know I've heard from people in Greece that watch every week. And I know we've got several people in South Africa that watch every week, in Canada and Australia. So let me know where you are. I hope everybody has a great rest of their day.